welcome back to the Pour Over Podcast.
What is up, Pop Fam? Welcome back to another episode of the Pour Over Podcast. My name is Kyle. Okay, I'm going to stop because that's probably a little bit annoying. Hi. Welcome back to another episode of the Pour Over Podcast. If you are new here, hello. My name is Kyla. I'm the host of this podcast. I post episodes every single Tuesday morning, and this podcast, sorry, is really just a place where believers can come together and be poured into so we can go out and pour into others and make disciples of all nations as we try to be better disciples ourselves. Like I said, post episodes every single Tuesday morning. You can find me on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also find the video version of the podcast on YouTube. So maybe you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts and you're like, hey, you know what? I think I want to watch a video today. You can find me right on YouTube. It's the same thing, the Pour Over Podcast. You'll see my smiling face there. And yeah, that's where you can find me. Um, Today's episode is going to be very, I don't want to say juicy. Okay, juicy might be the wrong word, but it's going to be great. I'm glad you tuned in. If you are a returning listener and you are a faithful member of the Pop Fam, welcome back. I'm so glad to have you. I absolutely love every single one of you for tuning in and listening week after week. It means the world to me. I'm not even going to lie. Sometimes I think, is there anyone even listening out there? Like, what am I doing this for? Why am I even posting? But then I'll hear someone mention, like, hey, you should check out Kyla's podcast, or I'll get really good feedback. And I'm like, oh, someone cares. So I'm sorry, that sounds so pathetic, but I really am so grateful for every single listener every single week, no matter what the numbers look like, no matter how many people listen. I love doing this so much, and I know that the Lord is using me in some way, and I'm so thankful that I get to be a part of His plan. But that's all I have for a little introduction for me. I'm very excited to get into this episode, and I honestly don't even remember fully how I came up with this idea. I was probably just thinking about me being single, which that happens sometimes. I'm not going to say that happens often, but it does happen sometimes, right? And so I think I was just thinking about my relationship status, which is single. And I think it was just one of those things where I was like, dang, like I wish I would have known some of this stuff before I started dating and before I jumped into like the whole relationship world, because it can be kind of scary to jump into relationships, and before you know it, you're expected to date because all of your friends are dating, and it's scary, it's weird, and you don't always know how to navigate your first relationship or any relationship, honestly. It's kind of like trial by error sometimes, and a lot of it's you just kind of learn as you go, which is awesome and beautiful, and that is so true of really any relationship with another person, whatever it might look like. You do just kind of learn along the way. But there are definitely some things that I wish I had known before I started dating that probably would have saved me some heartache and would have protected me a little bit better, and definitely would have de- definitely would have, how am I going to word this? It definitely would have made me make smarter choices about who I let into my life, and that's what I'm gonna that's what I'm gonna leave it at. If I had known some of these things, I think I would have been smarter about who I let into my life, who I'm actually in a relationship with, and yeah, dating is weird. It's weird, you guys. Let's call it what it is. It's weird and it's confusing sometimes, and it's like, what is even happening? And it can be scary, but I'm here today just to tell you some things that I wish I had known when I started to date and when I started entering the world of having a boyfriend, because I would have been so much smarter and I would have saved myself some heartache, and I think I would have been able to also give my friends better advice as well. if I had known these things going into it. So, if you're listening to this because you are a young woman and you're starting to date and your friends are starting to date, I just want you to really come into this open minded, and I'm very excited to share this with you. But honestly, this is for anyone at any stage of dating, you know? Um, I have noticed that like a lot of my audience is younger women, like younger, like teenagers. So, of course, I do want to kind of speak to that today because that is kind of like when you start dating, is when you become a teenager and everything. And that's when relationships start to get a little bit more than just like, oh, I have a crush on this boy in my class. Like, the older you get, relationships start to get a little bit more serious. So, I do, of course, want to talk to the young ladies today. But honestly, some of this stuff that I am talking about today, I have learned along the way, and I could have used this in my adult dating as well, for sure. Like some of these things, I really wish I had just known altogether. So I would have been so much better whether I was, whatever age when I started dating or, you know, just along the way. I wish I would have known some of these things even as an adult. And so whether you're a young teenager or you're in your 20s or, maybe you're older and you're starting to date again after something. I don't know. I don't know. But whoever you are, wherever you're at, I just hope that you go into this episode with an open mind, open ears, open heart, and really be receptive because these are some key things that I think are so important to know before you enter into a relationship. And maybe you're already in the world of dating and you're like, okay, well, is this only for people who have never dated before? No, this is for anyone, whether you have had a relationship yet or not. This is for you. If you are not married, and even if you are in the process of dating, this is for you today. I am sharing things that I wish I knew when I started dating. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I wish I had known, especially as someone younger, like when I first kind of started noticing boys a little bit more and when I first got into the very first relationship I ever had, I wish I had known that you don't have to date, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're 14, 17, 25, 50. You don't have to date. Like, just because your friends are in relationships, that doesn't mean that you have to be in a relationship. And I think this is especially hard when we're younger and when we're in our teenage years because, especially once we get to high school, it's like, oh, these relationships are getting kind of serious. And all of my friends have like a man, and I don't have a man. I should probably find someone. And there's kind of that expectation when you have a crush on someone that, oh, that means you need to be in a relationship. And honestly, that's just not true. It's just not true. I tell my youth students who are middle schoolers all the time, I tell them, you do not have to be in a relationship. You shouldn't be in a relationship, not in middle school, but that's just my opinion. Um, you don't have to be in a relationship, like, okay, so you have a crush on him. That doesn't mean you need to take it a step further. Like, especially when you are young. I'm just going to say this. If you are a young person, I need you to hear me when I say this. If you are young, do not start dating before you guys are ready. Okay? Seriously, do not start dating just because all your friends have a man and everyone's talking about being in relationships. You do not need to date before you are ready. And when I say being ready, I mean like being able to, I don't know, drive yourself to a date or your boyfriend being able to drive you on a date and not having to ask your parents to drive you to your dates. Like, guys, that's kind of weird, like, and then also being able to afford being in a relationship as well, because being in a relationship will cost you like time, energy, and money. It just will. And if you're not ready for that, like, if you have to like ask your parents to buy you your boyfriend or your girlfriend's Valentine's Day gift, you're not ready to date. Okay, you're just not. And it's okay. You can have a crush on someone and not do anything about it. And I know that sounds probably backwards and you're like, that's literally so lame. Why would I not do something about it? Because you are probably not ready to be in a relationship. Okay, relationships are intense and we are not meant to be in just flip flop relationships and just float from one person to the next. Okay, that's nowhere in the Bible. Dating isn't even in the Bible. Nowhere in the Bible will you see the word boyfriend or girlfriend or situationship. Imma just say it like it is. You're not gonna see the word situationship anywhere in the Bible, okay? What you will see is marriage. You will see marriage. And I'm not saying you have to get married as soon as you start dating. I do think dating is a healthy process for young people, but only if you're actually ready and you're ready to go in with intentions, okay? If you're 14 years old, you're not ready to get married, and that's totally okay. You can go hang out with your crush in a group setting. Go invite all your friends to go to the water park or something, you know? Like, if you have a crush on someone, that's great. Feelings are gonna happen. That's totally natural, that's totally normal. But you don't have to jump into a relationship just because you feel like that's the normal thing to do. It's not. It doesn't have to be. You can have a crush on someone, work on yourself, let them work on themselves, and just kind of like let it, either it's going to fizzle out and it's going to be nothing, or maybe you guys have feelings for each other for a long time. That's okay. Date when you're ready, when you can drive yourself to the date, when you can pay for the date, when you are ready to have intentional conversations with someone about a future, which you're really not ready to do when you're that young. And I hate being that person. I really do. I really, really do. I try not to be that person that's like, you're too young for this. I really don't want to be that person because I remember being that age and I hated when people were like, you're too young for that. It because people still tell me that to this day. And I'm like, stop. But I get it. I get it. I hate being that person, but it's really so true. Like, I see so many kids who just start dating so quickly. And I'm like, you're a child, like, and it's not a bad thing. I feel like this new generation of kids who are like in high school and middle school, they are being forced to grow up so quickly, and it's insane. I don't know if it's all because of social media. I don't know if it's just society and society's expectations of kids, but when I was in middle school, I was wearing like the little Justice plaid capri shorts down to my knees and little butterfly print t-shirts and tennis shoes. And now middle schoolers dress like they're 20. I'm like, what is happening? Like, and it's not just the way they dress, it's the way that they present themselves, the way they talk, like the things that people are talking to them about and letting them in on. I'm like, can't we just let kids be kids? And I know if you're a young person, you probably don't want to be treated like a kid, but I'm telling you, you do not want to grow up quickly. You really, really don't. So when it comes to relationships, don't force yourself to date someone. It's totally okay to have feelings for them and not do anything about it. Get to know them, get to know their friends, their family. Like I said, hang out in group settings. That's totally normal. That's totally cool. And you don't have to put a label on it. You don't have to be in an intense relationship because you shouldn't enter a relationship until you're ready to be intentional. You really shouldn't. You should not enter the dating world unless you are ready to make plans to make that long term, you know? And that's kind of not really normalized with young people because there is the whole like, well, let young people date, it's good for, you know, their social status, or just, you know, their the social norms, like just socializing in general, you know, it's just good for them to be in relationships. And it's like, yes, but also there's a lot of heartache that comes when relationships end, and there's a lot of intensity in the dating world, and if you introduce someone to that at too young of an age, that's going to take a really huge toll on them. And I think that we should just let people be people and not force them to be in relationships and not say, well, you need to put a label on it, you need to be in a relationship with them. Like, maybe just take a step back and think, do I have feelings for this person? Okay, yes, I do. But do I have to be in a relationship with them? Am I actually ready for it? Are they actually ready for it? Because you might think you're ready, but that person that you like might not be. And that's okay. That happens. You know, it's all about timing, and that's fine. But don't force yourself to be in a relationship just because all your friends are. This goes for people in their 20s too. Like, you should not be putting yourself out there on the dating apps and doing all the things and be desperately looking for a significant other just because you feel like you're supposed to be, okay? God has a plan for you. He knows who you're supposed to be with, and He knows when you're supposed to be with someone. And if it's not right now, that's totally fine. But do not force yourself to date. Okay, my next piece of advice, my next thing that I wish I had known before I started dating. It's okay and it's good if he is sweet. Now, of course, I'm talking to my ladies specifically because that's the majority of my audience and I am a woman. But this goes for men too. I say this because I feel like it's becoming so normalized to go for someone who is nonchalant and is the cool guy or the cool girl and plays hard to get and doesn't show their emotions too much and it's like, "Oh, I play it cool. I'm a baddie. I'm cool, like I'm not going to talk to my friends about this person. Like it's not a big deal." You hear that pause? I don't know if you're on YouTube right now, but I'm looking you dead in the eyes. And I hope you feel it, even if you're not on YouTube, even if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I hope you feel my eyes staring into your very soul. Because let me tell you, you do not want someone who does not show affection towards you. You don't. You don't. And I say this kind of like a little aggressively, but I also have been there and I totally get it. Because in my very first relationship, I was 16. So I was still young, but I feel like that's around the age when everyone starts getting in intense relationships. At least it was when I was in high school. But I was 16 and my first boyfriend worshiped the ground I walked on and I hated it. I'm sorry, that's so mean. If you're listening, I am so sorry that I was not appreciative of you at the time, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I was like, "Ugh, why does he wanna hang out with me all the time? Why does he wanna talk to me all the time? Why doesn't he have a life? Like, go, shoo, don't have to be all over me, like, it's fine." It's because I was so young and I was so independent, like, I'm still independent for sure, but I think it was just because I'd never been in a relationship before, so I didn't know that you were supposed to be, like, cared about, and I didn't know that you were supposed to be with someone who, like, likes you and wants to be around you all the time. And I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this. And I did not appreciate it. Now, there is a difference between, being caring and affectionate versus being needy. You don't want someone that's needy. Okay. I'm going to just leave that there. I'm not even going to get into that. But you do want someone who is affectionate towards you. And I know you're probably thinking, "No, no, Kyla, I like the nonchalant guys." You like the nonchalant guys until they leave you undelivered or read for hours at a time, and then you start wondering why they're not responding to you. And you're like, "Well, I was going to make plans with you tonight, but okay, maybe not. That's cool." You like the nonchalant guy until you need to or you want to take him to an event and he doesn't want to go because he doesn't want to be seen with you and you're like, "Oh, well, what's up with that?" You like the nonchalant guy until you start feeling a lack in the relationship because you're not being shown any affection. And then you're like, "Ugh, why am I starting to resent him? Why am I feeling so unappreciated?" It's because you went for someone who doesn't show that they care about you. And I'm sorry. I know I say this so aggressively, but it's because I've been in two relationships. Two relationships. Now, I'm not saying I haven't like shown interest in other guys and casually dated other guys, but I've been in 2 relationships, okay? My first relationship, he worshiped the ground I walked on, and I did not like it. I did not like it. The second relationship I was in was the complete opposite, and he was very nonchalant and not very affectionate. And I can now confidently say, having been on both sides, I can say I want someone who will show me affection because I have my own needs as a person and in a relationship. And I do not want to be with a guy who doesn't compliment me, who finds it hard to pay attention to me, who doesn't make time for me. Like, that sounds very simple and very bare minimum, but when you're actually with a guy, like sometimes you think like, "No, I want a guy who doesn't revolve his whole schedule around me." Okay, there's a difference between not revolving his whole schedule around you and, where he gets to the point of just not involving you at all. Like, if you're dating a guy or you're in a relationship or whatever, talking to someone, whatever, I want you to think, like, does this guy actually make time for me? Does he? Does he? Okay, because talking to you once a week is not him pursuing you at all. He's not pursuing you. He's making time in his schedule to show you some to give you some attention. He's not pursuing you. Okay? If you were in a relationship, the guy should be pursuing you. Ladies, I hope you're hearing me right now. If you're in a relationship or if you're dating someone, whatever, the guy should be showing you that he wants you. I feel like we miss that sometimes. Like, hello, the guy should be showing you he actually wants to be with you. And him showing you he wants to be with you does not mean texting you 9 hours later because he found time in his schedule to get back to you. It doesn't mean seeing you once a week when, he can make the time to kinda hang out with you and, like, that's the only one-on-one time you guys ever get, like, I'm sorry that I hate using this phrase, but, like, that kinda gives me the ick. I'm sorry, I hate using that phrase, but it kinda does. I'm kinda like, "Ugh," like, "No, you're not really interested, because if you were really interested, you would be showing me that, and by showing me that, by being affectionate, by making time for me, by showing me that you actually care about me, not on a surface level, okay? Because anyone can ask you how your day's going. Anybody can ask you how you're doing. But someone who actually cares about you and someone who wants to know you on a deeper level and have a deeper relationship with you will ask you something deeper. Will go deeper. Will ask you, like, hey, what has been on your heart recently? What has the Lord been showing you? Like, what's a huge goal that you have? Like, they're not going to ask you the basic surface level questions, okay? And be nonchalant and basically act like they don't care. Because chances are, if they are acting like they don't care, it's because they don't care. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you. Trust me, it's hard for me to hear too. I'm sorry, guys. This is I'm just going off. I'm on one. I don't even know why. But I'm sorry. I have this wisdom and I have gone through stuff with guys, so I feel like I have to share this with you and I hope you appreciate it. I hope that you love it. But I'm telling you, if a guy is acting like he doesn't care about you, it's probably because he doesn't care about you. If you don't believe me, I need you to watch the movie He's Just Not That Into You. I'm telling you, that movie, every single time, gives me the biggest reality check, and I'm like, "Oh, oh, kinda painful," but it's so true, like, the nonchalant guy is just a guy who doesn't care about you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really hate to break it to you, but I have seen men in love, okay? They are not nonchalant. I have seen men head over heels for the women in their lives. They are not nonchalant. They're not, crazy obsessive, but you can tell, even as an outsider, you can tell that they love the person they're with, okay? And that is the kind of guy or girl, okay? Because men, this goes for you too, okay? You don't want to be with a woman who acts like she doesn't care about you. Because I'm telling you from a woman's perspective, if she's playing it cool and she's acting like she doesn't care about you, she really does not like you. I'm just telling you straight up. Or she has like problems and she doesn't trust people or let people in, which that is also not the kind of person you want to be with. But anyways, um this is just advice that I have for you, okay? Do not get with someone who is nonchalant and doesn't care about you. It is okay if they are nice and sweet and affectionate, okay? It's okay, and it's a good thing. That's the kind of person that you wanna be with. Alrighty, number 3, we are moving right along. Number 3, the third piece of advice I have, the third thing I wish I had known before I started dating is listen to your friends and your family. And I say this because I have not done that in the past, and it didn't end well for me at all. I had my reasons for not totally trusting what people were saying. I mean, I say that, but, like, looking back, they weren't that great of reasons, but I thought at the time that I had my reasons, and I was like, "Oh, well, they just don't like them because of this," and, like, so I can't trust their advice, or, they're seeing it from a different perspective, and they're not really in it, they don't fully understand, so, you know, actually, it's okay, like, they just don't get it, you know? And obviously, if you have friends that are not in the healthiest relationships themselves, and they kind of like cycle through guys or through girls, and you kind of know that they're not necessarily going to give you the best advice, then don't listen to them. But if it's a friend who is a solid friend or family member, whoever, if it's someone in your life who is solid, who you already trust, who you believe can give you good advice, and they're telling you that this person you're seeing is a red flag and you need to stay away from them, you should just listen to them. And I'm not saying that you immediately have to turn around and be like, well, so and so said this about you, so we're done. Like, maybe don't turn around and make like an immediate reaction, but maybe listen to them and take their advice into consideration and really, really think about it. Don't just be like, well, where are they coming from? Like, actually think, like, do I see this in this person? And then if the answer is yes, I do see that in this person, don't be like, "Oh, well, but it's because of blah, 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 blah." Like, if it's a trait that you really don't like in someone and other people are seeing it and warning you, and it's also something that you don't like about them, don't make an excuse for it, okay? Because you're going to get to a point eventually where you are tired of making excuses. And when you're kind of over the excuses that you're making yourself, and then it's just gonna crumble. And the thing with your friends and your family is that they are seeing your relationship from an outsider's perspective. And I'm telling you, you want other people's opinions. You really, really do. That is something that I am working on. I don't want to say working on because I'm not in a relationship now, but that is something I really want to be better about in my next relationship is inviting people into the relationship and into counseling us and walking us through that relationship, and not necessarily through the relationship, but walking alongside us in the relationship. Someone who's older, wiser, a couple who, you know, has been through some bumps in the road, because you need an outsider's perspective. You are only going to see so much when you are in the relationship. You need someone from the outside to be able to take a look on the inside and say, okay, well, this is what I'm seeing, and this is a red flag that I'm seeing, and we maybe need to fix this and let's work on this. Or, at the same time, be able to say, no, like, I really love this about you guys. Like, this is really great. This is a really strong area for your relationship. I love how you guys do this. You need someone to give you an outsider's perspective on the relationship. And you don't want to exile everybody as soon as you start dating someone, because you don't want to do that alone. I'm telling you, you don't want to be in a relationship and isolate yourself from all your friends and family. Number one, why would you do that? Why would you do that? You know? Why would you spend all your time with one person and never spend time with anybody else? Like, hello, they are your friends and family for a reason. So, number one, why would you do that? Number two, you need advice because, like I said, you can only see so much. You are going to have a blind spot in that relationship because you're the one who's in it, and you've got the butterflies, and you know them a little bit better than someone else might. So you're like, no, it's just because of this, and in reality it is something that really needs to be addressed, and you'll have that tendency to make an excuse for them. And reality, it doesn't need an excuse, it just needs to be fixed, it just needs to be resolved. It doesn't need you to cover They don't need you to cover for them. They need you to probably approach it with them and say like, hey, I don't really like how you do that, and it's not really great for our relationship, so how can we change this so we can be closer and where it won't cause a divide. I don't know. I kind of got off on like a little tangent, but essentially, what I mean is you need to listen to your friends and your family. They love you and they know you. They want the best for you. They don't want you with someone who is not going to give you the best. Okay. And you might think, well, my friends and family have really high standards. Okay. Why don't you? Hello? Like, you should have high standards. You should not be okay with just anybody dating you. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but you should not be okay with any random dude or woman, if you're a man listening to this, but you should not be okay with any random person off the street being in a relationship with you. Okay. You should have standards. You should know what you want, and you should expect to get that. I mean, obviously, if it's like something crazy, like I expect you to do a dive into, like, I don't even know, like the river. Like, I don't even know. Guys, I'm really on one right now. I don't even know what I'm saying. But obviously, you're not going to want to have like crazy standards, like something out of this world insane, but like read your Bible. Learn how you are loved by the Father. Learn how a man should love his wife and how a wife should love her husband. Like, it's honestly that simple. Like, get to know the love of God and the love that God calls us to have for our significant others, for our partners, and don't accept anything less than that. And if your friends and family believe that you deserve that, you should too. So if your friends and family believe that you deserve the best and you believe you deserve the best and your friends and family are saying you're not getting the best, maybe you should listen to them. Maybe you should take their advice. And you should think, you know what? They have a point. I don't like how this person treats me this way, or I don't like that they do that. It's not very respectful. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't think it's good for our relationship. And then do something about it, you know? Like, it doesn't have to be that you automatically break up with the person. Like, talk to them. If someone approaches you and says, "Hey, have you thought about how that person is treating you?" Maybe take it into account, think about it, pray about it, and then go to that person and approach them. And it doesn't have to be anything weird or mean or accusatory. It could just be like, "Hey, I this is something that you do and someone kind of brought it up and it made me kind of open my eyes and realize I don't love that you do that. How can we fix this so that it doesn't cause a divide in our relationship?" It's as simple as that. But don't block everybody out just because you like the person, okay? You want someone in the relationship with you. Like, you want someone to walk you guys through it and be with you in it, because someone else's advice could honestly be what saves you as an individual and what saves your relationship. So, listen to your friends and your family. Alrighty, moving right along. The fourth thing I wish I knew before I started dating was to let the Lord bring me a guy. Now, what do I mean when I say this? Well, I have a habit, and I only recently discovered this, and it really changed my whole perspective on dating and everything that I needed in a relationship. It really blew my mind. It was like, whoa, when I actually realized this about myself. I have a habit of forcing things, and I have a habit of liking a guy and then I get attached, and then I'm like, "God, this is it. Thank you. He's so wonderful, isn't he? This is the guy you have for me, isn't it?" And God's like, "No. No, it's not. He's not it." And I'm like, "No, it is." And God's like, "Pretty sure I said no." And I'm like, "No, just you wait. This is the guy." And it never works out. Imagine that. Imagine that, God says no, and I'm like, "No, trust me, God, you're wrong." Like, what am I thinking? But it's because, obviously emotions and feelings get in the way. And when you really like someone and you start to kind of picture yourself with them, you're like, no, like this is like obviously going to work. And in reality, as Christians, we should not be forcing things because God knows what is best. And if He wants you with someone, He will give you that assurance. He will give you that confirmation. And if He doesn't want you with someone, He's going to tell you. And when you hear that, don't ignore that. Just like how I was just talking about with your friends and family. Like, if they are warning you, listen to that. And if God, if the Lord of Lords, if the Prince of everything, if the God of angel armies is telling you not to be with this person, you should probably listen. And this is not something I have done very well in the past. This is not something I listen to. And I really want to change that. I really, really do. I'm trying to be so much more intentional with how I enter a relationship going forward. So, I am single right now, which I've already talked about, but I'm not forcing it and I'm not putting myself out there and, going on dating apps and letting people set me up and all the things because, well, there's a lot of reasons for that. But one of the reasons is because I have had a habit of forcing things. And instead of being obedient and just letting the Lord bring me someone when He's truly believed that I am ready, I try to force things and I bring a guy to God and I'm like, "No, he's great. Like, you just don't understand. Like, I know he's the one for me." And God's like, "No, he's not. Let me bring you the guy when you're ready. You're not ready and you shouldn't be forcing it." But going forward, like, I really want to be just obedient and open and not force anything, not rush anything, not get overly attached too quickly because that has also been a problem of mine. But I really just want to be settled, settled in where I'm at, settled in my relationship status. And whenever God brings me the person he wants me to be with, then he will do that. I really truly believe that. I really truly believe that God has has the kind of man that he wants me to be with, and he will bring that to me when I am ready and when that person is ready, and he'll bring us together when the timing is right. And in the meantime, I don't need to force anything. I don't need to try to make something work if it's not going to work, you know? It's okay if things don't work. It really is, you know, and that's part of the dating world, and I wasn't even planning on talking about it, but you do not have to marry the first person you date, you know? Like it's trial and error, and you're going to enter relationships and truly believe that they are the one for you, and they might not be. And that is okay. It's okay. That doesn't mean you're going to be alone for the rest of your life. That doesn't mean you're hopeless. It just means they weren't the person for you, and that's totally fine. But I want to get to a place where I'm so settled that I let God bring me someone rather than me trying to force someone into my life and trying to make it work when God says no. You know, there's a huge step of obedience that comes when God says no to something or someone and you really really want it. I feel like that is where so many people struggle is we have desires and we have things that or people that we want so badly and we're like God, I just don't understand why you're not giving me this thing or this person and God's like you don't have to understand. It's not your job to understand. It's your job to be obedient. And that is where faith comes in, where we have to rely on our faith in God and in his timing and in his will for our lives and in what he knows is best rather than what we think is best for us. Because if we're being honest, we don't know what we're doing. We are human beings. We only get it right sometime. We do not get it right all of the time. So we should trust in the God that does get it right all of the time. God never messes up. He never makes mistakes. His timing is never wrong. He's never too late. He knows exactly what he's doing. God knows what he's doing. So instead of forcing yourself to be in a relationship with someone that you really know you should not be in a relationship with, which, you know, we've all been there, it's okay. But instead of forcing yourself to be in a relationship with someone that you have already known in your brain, I don't need to be with this person. This isn't the kind of person I even want to be with. Like sometimes we settle, and I'm going to talk about that in the next point. But sometimes we're just like, I know I shouldn't be with this person. I know I deserve more. I know that's not the kind of person I want to be with, but I'm so desperate for a relationship. I'm just going to make it work. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work for a reason. So that is my piece of advice, and that is something I wish I had known before I started dating was just to let God bring me someone and to not force it. Don't force it. If it's the wrong person for you, let them be the wrong person for you. Not that that doesn't come with hurt and pain, and that's fine. You'll have to get through that, but that's okay. It's okay. You can work through that. What you don't want to do is end up forcing and pushing and striving and trying to make something work that just isn't meant to work, and instead causing yourself so much more heartache when in reality, you could just save yourself so much pain by just allowing God to bring someone to you when He knows you both are ready. Okay, I am very excited to share this last point, and I think this is the perfect ending for this episode, but I really want you to sit up and hear me and listen to me. If you have not been paying attention this entire episode, listen now, okay? I hope you've been paying attention, but I really want you to hear me when I say this. You are worthy of more than you think, okay? I want you to hear me. I'm going to say it again. You are worthy of more than you think. And I say this because in the past I have settled. I have. And that's not a diss to any guy that I've been with. That's not me hating on them. That's just me knowing that when I started dating them, I knew that I was settling in some area where I shouldn't have settled. I knew that somewhere a need was not going to be met. And I knew that there were red flags and I ignored them. And it's because I didn't think I was worthy. I didn't think I was worthy of the kind of love I had always dreamed about. I didn't think I was worthy of this, not extreme, but just this really true deep love that loves you just so passionately and so wholeheartedly. I didn't think I was worthy of that. I honestly didn't even think it was possible. I really, really, really didn't. I honestly, like, I would see other people's love and I saw it and I would acknowledge it and I would think, that's great for them, but I don't think I'm worthy of that. Like, I know the kind of love that people talk to you about, and especially when you're single, they're like, "Oh, this is the kind of love you should be accepting of. This is the standard that you should have." And I would listen to that and be like, "Well, that's great, but I don't actually think I'm going to get that." So, it's fine. Like I told myself I would have to sacrifice something because I'm not actually going to get the kind of love that everyone is telling me I'm worthy of. I just don't think I'm worthy of it. I don't think I deserve it. And the fact is, that's just not true. And my worth of that love does not come from my own actions. It doesn't come from the fact that I work to deserve it. It's because I hold value as a child of God, as the daughter of the King. And I'm telling you right now, if the God of angel armies, if the Lord of heaven and earth loves you enough to send his own son down, his only son down, to live on this earth, to carry the weight of your sins, and to die on the cross and defeat death for you, if he loves you enough to do that for you, I think you're worthy of some guy buying you flowers. I think you're worthy of a guy holding the car door open for you. I think you're worthy of someone clearly communicating with you that they love you and that they care for you and that they want to be with you. I think you're worthy of a guy showing you he wants to be with you. Like, I hate to get back on this tangent, but I am so tired of seeing girls, of seeing my friends and even with myself, but I'm so tired of seeing women not be pursued the way that I know they should be pursued. Like, we let people get away, and it's not just guys, it's not just romantic relationships, it's friendships too. And even with family dynamics, we let people get away with treating us less than we deserve. And that's not okay. You hold value as a child of the living God. And you are out here letting people walk all over you, disrespect you, and not show up for you. What is that about? What is that about? Hmm? I say that to you, but I also needed to hear it as well. But seriously, what are we doing? What are we doing, people? What are we doing if we are out here and we're just letting people disrespect us and letting people walk all over us and use us and not truly care about us? Okay, if you are the kind of person who is going to give them the love that God calls us to have for someone, you should expect it right back. It is not crazy. You are not crazy if you're thinking, well, I always show up for my friends and I always am there for them and I always listen to them and I'm there whenever they need me and I'm just really not getting that back. Like, they just don't really talk to me and I reach out to them, but they don't ever reach out to me. Like, am I crazy? Did I do something wrong? They're just not showing up for you. And you need to acknowledge that. And it's the same thing with romantic relationships. You can give all the love in the world. You can give all the love you have. But if someone is not giving that back to you, you need to walk away. You need to walk away, okay? Because you do not deserve to have someone treat you badly. You don't, okay? It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter what your past looks like.